that's some background. Here's Joyce Riley with what happened today. At the end of her show, this lady called in. They confirmed the lady's name, where she is in Missouri, and that the lady's in jail now. And then they had to go off air. The show was over. There were other shows programmed. There's no way with other shows like Gary Brownfield coming up that they could, keep going. That's why I have it set on overdrive so I can go internet only if I need to. And so Joyce continued to record. Folks were chomping at the bit to hear what happened. So she kept the lady online when her live show ended at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you're about to hear that. But to set the table, I know Joyce, because I listen some days when I'm driving into work, here on the local station, Joyce has really been on top of the fraud and how they're taking people's houses. But I want to explain something to you. They tried to take my little 3-bedroom house 4 years ago. It was about 2004, 5 years ago. Man, time's flying. Joyce Riley. It's getting worse and worse now, though. It's just amazing what's going on. Joyce, good to have you here with us.
I'll tell you, it is so important. It is unbelievably important that we have the opportunity and the ability through Genesis to be able to tell this message. And I really appreciate your coming on the air, allowing me to come on today because of this story. It needs to be told and it needs to be heard what just happened. This lady, I've been following her for several months, and she has been trying to save her home. Her job went off to China, the whole story. I don't need to tell everybody that, but her daughter lost her home, so she brought her daughter and her grandchildren into her home, was paying for food, and got behind on her mortgage payments. She is desperately wanting to save her home. That's all she's got. Well, they had been threatening her to take the home, and she found out that her original note had been paid as full when she wrote to them and asked them, do I owe anything? And they said it is paid in full. Your mortgage is paid in full.
Let me stop you. I was listening to XM to a financial show, mainstream syndicated show, and they had an expert on saying that these mortgage companies, I forgot because I hadn't heard the story yet, Joyce, are running scams. So there's so many I can't cover them all on it. That they sell them, and not just what Bank of America tried with me, that they then they tell you it's paid when there's only 1 or 2 payments left. They let that build up and then don't notify you and take your house. Go ahead. Is that what happened?
That is so criminal, so criminal. Well, in this situation, that mortgage was sold, and the new mortgage company was not a lien holder on it. There was no equity interest, so they had nothing, no really dog in this game. So there was no equity interest from that mortgage company, but they were going to take her home. So she called the attention to the judge that there was no equity interest on the lien. So as a result of that, she's been fighting it for months now. She went to court. She stood up to the judge and said, you don't have jurisdiction over this. And lo and behold, they sent her a message through her neighbors, telling her neighbors they didn't want to be at home today at 9 o'clock. They warned the neighbors to stay away, that they were going to take her into jail for trespassing on her own property, basically.
Let me stop you. We're going to tell the rest of the story, but I've got to add this. The New London, Connecticut case, Kelo, a New London case, this is on record, folks. And we had all the experts on, and we had the witnesses on. It was even in the Wall Street Journal. And we had the family Gore Seafood from South Texas. Same thing happened to them. They don't just take your property for private interest now. These homes were paid for, generational homes there on the water, nice homes. They said, we're not going to pay you for your homes. We're condemning them. And if you fight us, we're then going to charge you interest and rent for the years you've been fighting us. And they took the homes and then charged them hundreds of thousands of dollars for taking their homes. Go ahead, Joyce.
So, I mean, they will find a reason to take your property. I was just talking to Gary Brownfield a few minutes ago. If you don't go along with NAIS, if you don't go along with whatever, they will find a way to take your home. Well, as a result, at 9 a.m. this morning, we had her on the phone. Well, we had her on the phone from about 8 o'clock on. And I'm talking about Dawn Welch from Hillsboro, Missouri, which is over by St. Louis. We had her on the line for a full hour. She started telling us, well, they're driving up now. There's an ambulance that drove up. There's a Humvee that drove up. There's 9 police cars out there. The sheriff's department is there. The police officer's there. And she walked us through this as this started to happen.
Okay, so she knew they were coming, so she called you, and then right as the show ends, they hit. Continue. Spell out her name as best you know it so we can get an article up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com about this, Joyce.
Okay, it's Don Welch, DAWNWELCH from Hillsboro, Missouri. She was filming it with the video. She had people on the outside filming this and documenting it. So there is film of what happened. The police went around to the back door right at about 10:30 this morning. Now, we went off the air, and John from Genesis and Ted were kind enough to allow us to continue recording there at Genesis. So we've got it all for people to hear. So what happened was she continued to tell us the reason why she believed in what she was doing and why she had to do this, and she had to stand up for everybody, not just herself, but for everybody. So at about 10:30 then, all of the people gathered around her door, and they started yelling at her to come out. She she would not open the door. She would not go out. They then took the battering ram and began to knock down her door. And this part that we have recorded that hopefully you can play is absolutely chilling. It is so frightening. And Jim Percy, who was on the line with me, said, "This is what I went to Vietnam for. This is why I fought in Vietnam, was to come home to have my people treated like this."
And let me stop you, Joyce. I want to. The Bloomberg reported when it was at $9.4 trillion that would have paid off all mortgages, not mortgages in arrears. No, not mortgages just to poor people. All mortgages, from $50 million houses to $100,000 bungalows. All mortgages when it passed $9 trillion. Now they have spent, according to Bloomberg and AP, $14.8 trillion. That would pay off all mortgages, all credit cards, all car loans. But here's the deal. We've got to pay for all that with interest to the banks we gave it to. We give them our money, then we pay interest on it. We pay them to be slaves. So again, if we're going to have socialism, ladies and gentlemen, the point is all the houses would have been paid for. We're not getting any of this, Joyce. This is unbelievable.
It is, and they're wanting any excuse to take your property. Like I said, if you don't go
Joyce, they tried to take my little house.
Yeah,
they tried to take the
other in your property. I don't care what the excuse is. They want your property, and they are going to get it. That's their goal. So Dawn realizes this, and Dawn was standing strong. 54-year-old, 125-pound grandmother. She was told to have her children out of there because of the marriage license that allows the state to have control over the children. Had the children been there, they would have carted them off to DFS, and so she was endangering the lives of her children and would have put them into foster homes. So she didn't have her children, she had her daughter there, who is, of course, above age, and then her grandchildren were off the property at the time. They came to get her animals. They came to get all of her belongings. We don't know what has happened, because after you hear this, you will realize that Dawn was not treated very well.
And by the way, we need to go to the courthouse when they try to sell it off and show the little criminals. It'll probably be local bureaucrats trying to get the house, because they always have these little private, little secret auctions for themselves, little boss hogs. Mm-hmm. Joyce, how long is this clip we're going to play?
It should be about 5 minutes, to the point where they break in and they totally subdue her. Is approximately about 5 minutes. If we can cut right to the chase, and I think John's got it right there, it may be only about 2 minutes from the time.
No, that's fine. In fact, I want to play more of this. I want to hear the buildup, if that's okay, Joyce, because you said you were going for 30 minutes before this happened. Maybe we should, let's do this. Let's talk about, because I know I've been told, and I've also heard you guys are really covering this. I know we've been covering it some, but not as much as we should. Break down what you've been seeing, the different tricks they're playing. There's so many tricks, I don't know them all. I'm just, have seen what happened to my grandparents and what happened to, my dad, and what happened to me with chicanery, with the criminals that run government that have hijacked the nation. So let's walk through that till the 8 after in about 15 minutes, because I want a lot of stations join us in the second hour that don't carry the first. Let's recap, go over all that's happening, some of the background you have, and we'll play that at 8 after. Okay, Joyce?
Okay, you've got it.
Okay, so without me interrupting, lay out again what's happened, and then let's spend the rest of the time we have, the next two short segments, getting into what your own knowledge is on this.
Okay, the situation is a woman has refused to let go of her house. She does not want her property to be taken away, so she does everything to defend that. Now, she was working with Jim Percy, who has written a book called Am I the Only American That Thinks This Way? When he found out that this kind of fraudulent activity was taking place, she then began to be really empowered, because she listens to Genesis, to be empowered to do the right thing to save her property. So she submitted to the judge the paperwork showing